Lawyers and supporters of the parties in 4 appeals emanating from the September 2018 governorship elections in Osun State. The 7-man panel of the court, led by the Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Mohammed, heard the appeals and chose July 5, 2019 for judgment. By the agreement of lawyers in the appeals, the court took submission from all the parties in appeal number SC 553-2019, which is the main appeal challenging the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which upheld the election of Governor Adeboyega Oyetola. The court said its judgment in the main appeal will be applied to 2 similar appeals. The court also took arguments from parties on another appeal marked SC 556-2019. In their arguments, lawyers to the respondents, which include INEC, Governor Oyetola and the APC, faulted the appeals and asked the court to dismiss them for lacking in merit. They also asked the court to set aside the appeal for being defective.
We had argued that there's a defect in the notice of appeal in the sense that they refer to themselves as respondents instead of appellants. And if the court agrees with us, it means that's a fundamental defect, because if your notice of appeal is defective, then it's like the foundation of a house. If it's defective, you really can't have anything on it.
However, counsel to Senator Adeleke, Mr. Onyechi Ibazu, asked the court to allow the appeal, set aside the decision of the Court of Appeal, and restore the majority judgment of the Osun State Election Petition Tribunal, which declared Senator Adeleke as the winner.
What the court did was to regard 553 as the main appeal. Then they now stated that 554, 555 will abide by their major decision in 553. But they took 556 separately because it was a cross appeal before the Court of Appeal. But when we got to the Supreme Court here, it turned out to be a main appeal in itself. So we are likely to have 2 judgments on the 5th of July, when final judgment will be delivered in respect of this matter, in respect of the main appeal and the cross appeal, which is equally a main appeal before the Supreme Court.
Whatever decision is reached by the Apex Court will be final and binding on all the parties in the case. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
To security matters now, no fewer than 30 persons have been killed and 42 others injured in a triple suicide bombing at Mandarari village in Konduga local government area of Borno State. The Borno State Emergency Management Agency has confirmed the attack, even as residents say they've so far buried 23 people. Some of the injured are receiving treatment at the General Hospital Konduga, while others are being treated at the General Hospital in Maiduguri. Konduga local government area has been previously attacked by Boko Haram terrorists who have launched direct attacks on various communities. While the attacks have been repelled by the military and the Civil Joint Task Force on several occasions, the insurgents appear to be resorting to suicide bombings.
Around 8 p.m., it was reported that there was a very loud explosion in Konduga. So all our efforts to reach Konduga yesterday could not. It's not proper because of security checkups and what have you. So this morning we tried our best to come, but still, we kept at the gate for at least 1 or 2 hours. People get access to Konduga. On reaching the scene of the incident, we found out that there's a lot of casualties. In fact, the dead toll at the time we are talking to is about over 30, and the injured ones over 48.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the killing, describing it as evil. The president is giving the assurance that the perpetrators will be brought to book, which, according to him, is only an addition to the judgment that will come on them from God Almighty. The president, in a statement by his spokesperson, Femi Adesina, commiserates with the families of the victims and the government of Borno State. President Buhari also commends the efforts of emergency response workers and humanitarian organizations. He's asking security agents to find new techniques to match terrorists' unconventional methods and sustained surveillance in all theaters of war. In the meantime, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, has been speaking on the crime rate in the country, and he says there's been a decline in attacks. He, however, acknowledged that there are still a few isolated cases of internal security breaches, which often attracts publicity and national attention. The police chief also emphasized the need for officers and men of the police to respond to internal security threats and undertake intelligence-led operations in order to sustain the successes recorded since the launch of Operation Puff Adder. He explains that the launch of Operation Puff Adder in all states of the Federation and other security strategies recently adopted to address internal security threats have resulted in the arrest of a total of 424 kidnappers who were arrested between May the 10th and June the 14th, 2019. He was speaking at a meeting with senior police officers in Abuja. And notwithstanding the assurances from the Inspector General of Police, the security situation in the country, particularly in the north, is still worrisome. The root cause of the problem is still a challenge. Perhaps security agencies may have to tackle the genesis of these problems head-on to finally nip it in the bud. Our correspondent, Oluwa Shonibare, takes a look at the pending concern that may have triggered the rise in crime.
When attempting to solve a problem, it is usually best to trace the root cause to determine how to correct the mistakes that led to the complications. In the northern region of the country, which at present is in a critical state, there appears to be some issues that need to be examined. Take these children roaming the streets in Kaduna State. At some point in their lives, they were a product of homes under the guidance of parents. But the system took them away from the protective custody of their guardians with the promise of a better life. But it appears that life usually ends up to be one where their hope lies in finding their way, leaving them open, as their vulnerability, emotional immaturity, insecurity, and understanding, or in this case, the lack of it, is exposed. This paves the way for those with machinations to recruit them for crime. And together, they unleash violence on the defenseless, killing thousands in the process. And this has been going on for decades. Elites in the region have been accused of sponsoring these brutal systems, but these traditional rulers debunk the allegations leveled against them by the former Minister of Defense, Mansour Danali.
The Council expressed its dismay with the statement of the Honourable Minister and called on him, as a matter of responsibility and urgency, to name the traditional rulers involved in such reprehensible activities, for government to take appropriate actions against them. Failure to do this will make his statement not only false, but also an attempt to tarnish the image of traditional rulers and thereby making them scapegoats for the inability of the military and other security forces to end the scourge.
Beyond the blame game is the urgent need for all who can change the situation to rise and stop the crisis from deepening beyond a point where even they can no longer control. Oluwa Shonibare, Channels Television News.
To discuss the nature of security challenges being experienced in the country, I'm being joined live from Abuja by a security expert and retired military general, General Cecil Esekaigbe. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10 as we look at this issue. Now, the security problem has persisted. Looking at the report there, we've seen different manifestations of perhaps the same problem. In your experience, what's the root cause of this persistent security challenge, looking at the northwest and the northeast?
Well, like Shonibare said, you see, we must learn how to look at the root causes of this problem rather than treating the symptoms. You see, in all these states, about the business of government at any level is for the security and welfare of the citizens. The governors of those states need to tackle the mass of employment of the citizens in their state. For instance, the political elites have used these youth who are not employed for their own personal purposes politically. And when they use them and dump them politically, it is not time for them to say, hey, let me find my own way. So they are the agents of this destabilization. They are the agents of this banditry. And the best thing to do this is to look at and address the mass unemployment and disconnect them from this madness of political elites using them for all those kind of political crimes that they commit.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about the governors, because I was looking at the president's plan, security plan, that is, for the Northeast. And let me just read a little portion of it. He says, under this plan, states working with the federal government will support security and military operations with logistics and local intelligence. Now, how do you see that playing out if the governors, are now going to have a role in the provision of logistics and, local intelligence? How will it play out?
Yes, according to Professor Michael Porter, the modern strategist, he doctored strategy as the rational utilization of resources. So what comes to play here is that the governors should partner with the federal government to address the security menace. That is by bringing their resources to bear. Looking at the homologous, security votes that they have and they enjoy in their various states, the time has come for them to put it and channel it into the tackling of these security menaces. The security agencies need funding. They need equipment. They need money for training. And you cannot fight this insurgency without appropriate platform.
Sorry, Major Sekagwe, you talked about...
They should all come in and help.
Yeah, sorry about that. You talked about the governors bringing in their resources. And that's kind of what I was talking about when I read out that paragraph about them providing logistics. Where will this money come from? Are we looking at them looking into the state to bring it? Or will the federal government be providing the money for the logistics? That's actually where I'm going.
Security is everybody's business. The federal government cannot do it alone. What I just said is that the humongous security votes enjoyed by the governor, the time is here for them to channel some of it to assist the federal government to tackle the security menaces that come. And don't forget that, these security challenges precipitate from the states. These youths that have been employed by, criminals and their agents to perpetrate these crimes all come from the states. So the time of buying some 50 luxurious buses or pickups is no longer there. Now you have to rationally utilize your resources, to tackle the complex emergencies that we find ourselves.
Yeah, but what is it about? What is it about the northern region
to do this job?
I mean, you've talked about perhaps bandits being sponsored. Some people have said it's poverty, but there's poverty everywhere else. So in your experience, what is it about the North, which we're talking about today, that's causing us to see this kind of issue?
You see, the philosophy of youth unemployment varies from state to state. In the Northwest region, for instance, you understand the concept of the emergeries, and there has been a consistent effort to see how we can address these emergeries and all that. But you see, as these things are unfolding, the involvement of the emergeries and the complications that follow, I don't think they are no longer interested in sitting down in one place and get 3 meals or 2 meals a day. They are becoming conscious of how to also get their money. That is why you see most of them are getting into kidnapping and other sorts of crimes. So there has to be, a deliberate effort to address this mass unemployment, to address the educational system in this region, so that the children will go to school, and by going to school, they will understand that they can get their means of livelihood by getting to school and getting employed at the end of the process.
All right, retired Major General Cecil Sekagwe, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight. In part 2, after the break, Nigeria's population rises above 200 million as United Nations releases new global population projections. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.